Students and parents trying to navigate college admissions testing during the pandemic have faced chaos and confusion. That registration website crashed and testing sites have been shut down at the last minute. And now, as Scripps reporter Ashar Qureshi shows us, last-minute shutdowns have forced parents and students to go to extreme lengths to take the exams.
Sitting down to take a standardized test can be stressful. But add to that the uncertainty of whether or not you'll be able to take the exam until the night before takes it to another level.
Literally up until the day before her scheduled test, they still hadn't slotted her.
Ann Mordine's 17-year-old daughter Nina registered on time and had studied for months for the ACT, but when her school closed, she had to go to an alternate examination location. But her testing seat couldn't be guaranteed.
I couldn't reach them. I probably spent 20 hours dialing back, and then once you would get through to somebody, it was the wrong person, so you'd have to start all over again.
Gil Gabori is the founder and CEO of The House, a teen tutoring program that provides test prep for the ACT and SAT. He says stories like that have been common during the pandemic.
What we saw were schools, which tend to be the testing sites, were closing their centers. So kids can only register for one location. It's a little bit like throwing at a dartboard and deciding where you want it to land.
On its website, the College Board warns that many locations will have reduced capacity because of social distancing guidelines. Unfortunately, we expect many test centers to encounter full or partial closures. And while both SAT administrators at the College Board and ACT testing provide accommodations for students with disabilities, getting those accommodations during the pandemic, says Gabori, has become increasingly difficult.
They were diagnosed with special education needs and were given accommodations in school, all part of the Americans with Disabilities Act. These are the rights they get to level the playing field.
To get their daughter's accommodation, the Mordines had to reschedule her test and travel out of state.
My husband and she drove up the night before, spent a night in the hotel, and went and took the test. Added expense, added effort. Not everyone can do that.
Despite many colleges and universities waiving the standardized testing requirement for admission, many remain skeptical that the absence of a score won't play a role in a school's decision. That means increased demand with fewer testing slots.
Unless the school says we're not looking at any test scores other than your transcripts and whatever portfolio material, that you kind of have to do it because the playing field isn't leveled for everybody.
ACT and SAT's next testing dates are scheduled for February and March, respectively. Gabori says rather than checking with the national organizations, it's best to reach out to your local testing location.
It's just too much capacity for their staff to deal with. So my advice is, if you're concerned about it, follow the trend, talk to your school.
I'm Ashar Qureshi reporting.